In this video, we're going to be planning this breast case using a ECOMP plan, or ECOMP style plan, which stands for Electronic Compensator Based Plan. So if you don't know what traditional compensator based planning is, I suggest looking it up or talking to your clinic about it. It's actually really pretty cool, but instead of using a physical compensator, we're going to use our MLCs to create an electronic compensator pretty much. So you can see here I already have my fields on. Okay, I've already weighted them appropriately. The next step is energy. What energy do I want to select? So like in the field and field video, I'm going to use 6x for now. I think ideally I would use 10x if available. We're right at about 24 cm wide, so at 24 cm separation, that's when I start to consider using a higher energy maybe. But because we lose so much superficial dose, since it's not too big of a separation, we do lose a lot of superficial dose with 15x. So I think 15x is a little bit too high of an energy for this case, or at least for us to just completely change a field to 15x. So we're going to stick with 6x to get started, and then we might add a little bit of 15x later. So what you need to do is you need to set up your fields first, okay? So you set up your fields, you weight them, you don't have to worry so much about normalizing yet, but you need to get your initial blocks set up and all of that. You can see we have our initial blocks. Everything's ready to go as if we were going to start a field and field plan, but instead we're going to add our electronic compensators. So if I right click on field 1, I can choose this new irregular surface compensator button. Okay, so the first thing it's going to ask you is this penetration depth. So there are some people out there who are really good at picking this number. Maybe your clinic has a better way of picking this, but honestly, I've never put too much thought into this. Really, I just have a basic rule. If we're at 24 cm separation, I'll set it at 45%. If we're way less than 24 cm, I'll go all the way down to 50%. If we're way over 24 cm, I'll go as low as 40%. Okay, so I kind of go 40 to 50%. We're right at that 24 cm separation, so I'm going to just put 45% in here. I'm not going to go over what that number means, but please, look it up, look in the Eclipse manual and read their description of it. It'll help you be a better ECOMP planner if you kind of understand what that number is. Okay, so we did field 1. Let's do field 2. Okay, so before we calculate, what we need to do is recreate our block edges. So that's why it's important to create your block edge first, okay, on your field and field plan, because what we do, we have persistent dose turned on, okay, so we can turn our 50% isodose cloud on, and that's gonna pretty much be our field edge that we had set up already, right? Because now when we set up this irregular surface compensator, it deletes our MLCs and we just have fluents now. So we can right click, let me do that again. If we right click and go to edit fluents, we can now see our fluents, but see, look, it got rid of our block edge. So we need to add that in. So what we're going to be doing with this ECOMP plan is, instead of adding field and fields and manipulating the MLCs, we're going to manipulate our fluents pattern, and then Eclipse is going to create our MLC pattern for us based on this fluents. So again, based on that number that we typed in, I typed in 45%, it comes up with this starting fluents map right here. So the better you are at picking that percentage, the less work you'll have to do editing this fluents. But anyways, we have this fluents. So I right clicked on fluents, I went to edit. This opacity button right here, we'll change that. So I usually drag that all the way to the left. I click this eraser, and then you can see that 50% isodose cloud, right? You can change the color if you can't see white very well, but you can use this eraser and erase all the fluents outside of that isodose cloud. So basically we're recreating that block edge, right? That medial block edge. So you got to be very careful. If you mess up and delete too much, you can just hit cancel and then do it again. Right click, edit fluents. So we erase that fluents on this side to recreate that block edge. Now what I want to do is create some flash. So there is a skin flash tool you can use. I like to create it manually though. I think it works better. We've done some testing with OSLDs on the surface, and we think that creating the flash manually it's a little bit more robust than using that skin flash tool. We've run into kind of some cold spots with that skin flash tool. But anyways, to do it manually, I'm going to use this tool right here. It's the measure transmission factor tool. I'm going to come out here to the outside of the breast, and I'm going to come about 1 cm inside the breast. Okay, I'm going to click, and when I click, it measures the transmission factor right there. So then what I can do is get this paintbrush, and anywhere I paint inside here, it's going to set a fluence transmission factor of 0.697, which is what I measured on the outside of that breast. Okay, so I'm going to make my brush a little bit bigger, 2 cm. I'm going to paint in that flash. And I want at least 2 cm of flash. So in this case, I'm going to set only 2 cm of flash because of how these are delivered. The more flash you add, it won't be a lot, but it will slightly increase your treatment time for no reason. There's really not a whole lot of reason to add more than 2 cm of flash. So field and field, it doesn't really matter. It's just an open field. You can add as much as you want, but in this case, the more flash we add, the more treatment time there will be actually, which will make more sense once I show you what these look like. So once I have that all set, so I erased over here to create my block edge that I want. I added my flash in over here. I'm going to hit apply, and I'm going to go to the other side. And again, I'm going to use my eraser to erase fluence on this side to recreate my block edge. I'm going to again measure the transmission factor because it'll be different on this side. So on that other side, it was 0.697. On this side, if I measure about 1 cm inside of my breast, it's 0.639. So close, but just slightly different. Again, I'm going to go to my paintbrush tool here, paint that flash in. So I don't want to come way out here and paint like this. Okay, you see it makes these holes in the fluence, these colder spots. So that's what the skin flash tool will do a lot. And so you're making this slightly cooler spot right at the exterior of the body. So if the patient breathes out and the body moves into that cooler spot, you'll still have kind of this colder spot, which is what you're trying to avoid with flash. So that's why I get rid of all that. Make sure I have at least 2 cm of flash. Click OK. Okay, so now we're ready to calculate. For this class, there's slight differences between all these, but we're going to go ahead and use the Smart LMC 15.6. Click OK. We're going to use sliding window delivery. Okay. Hit OK. okay, so we've calculated our dose. You should always come double check that you properly recreated that block edge. So in this case, we were blocking out the heart. You want to make just, double check. So when you look at your image now, your beam's eye view, you should see that block edge reappear and you can see your flash. Just confirm that everything looks good. Okay, so first, let me just show you what the delivery looks like. So in a field and field, what happens is we deliver that open field first, right? We'll deliver all those MU, and then the delivery will stop. The MLCs will move over to that first field and field shape. It'll deliver those MU, stop, move to the next shape, and so on and so forth, right? That's called a step and shoot delivery. What we're using here is a sliding window delivery. So again, we're going to edit the fluence, and then Eclipse is going to come up with MLC patterns that create that fluence pattern that we're manipulating. So when we click play, this is what a sliding window delivery looks like. Those MLCs will just slide from one side to the next, and the speed and shape is determined by Eclipse in order to create the fluence pattern that we want, right? So one possible benefit of ECOMP over field and field is speed. Once you start getting over 5, 6 or so field and fields, generally an ECOMP plan will be faster, and that becomes important if you're doing a breath hold treatment. If a patient is holding the breath, you want it to be as fast as possible for them, right? Another possible benefit is you might have a little bit more control over your dose distribution. So for really tricky plans like this one, where we have this deep GTV that we want to try to keep covered by 100%, it can be beneficial, because really this is very similar to an IMRT plan, right? Static IMRT plans also have a delivery like this, sliding window. So theoretically, you might have a little bit more control over your dose. You could do the same thing with field and fields, but again, it would take either a lot of field and fields to mimic this, or a lot of time to come up with that field and field plan to get as much control as this plan. The downside, though, is because Eclipse is creating those MLC patterns, it's suggested to QA these plans. So they're still 3D plans. You still bill them as 3D. That's great, but it might add a lot of a high percentage of a high workload to your physics staff or whoever's doing your QAs. Okay, so you can see here we have a starting point of our plan, and the most important thing about this starting point is that it's fairly symmetrical, right? That's what we want. So that 45% was probably a pretty good number to pick because our dose is pretty symmetrical. We have these two deeper hot spots and then a superficial hot spot. That's pretty good. So the first step is we want to normalize so that we have the proper amount of coverage that we want. In this case, we have 95-95, so that's the minimum amount of coverage we want, so that's great. But step one is I don't want my 100% line to look like this. I want my 100% line to be more complete. I don't want it to break up or, concave in like it is right now. It's just kind of an ugly looking 100% line. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to normalize down a little bit. Let's try 94%. It's a little better. Let's just put 93 in here just to see what that looks like. So 93 looks quite a bit better for my 100. I'm pretty happy with that. Separates just a tiny bit down here, but that's probably okay. Next step would be to check our tumor bed. So we want 100% to cover our tumor bed. Well, we're still cold on that, right? Let's go down a little bit more, 92%. I think we're still just maybe a tiny bit cold. Still a tiny bit cold somewhere, but this might be an okay place to start. I think I'll start here. So I'm a little bit cold, but for these plans, it's okay to start like that, which it'll make more sense when I get to that point. But we should be able to handle that a little bit later. Okay, so let's look at our beam's eye view. So really, the concept is the same as field and fields. We're going to turn on the isodose cloud that we want to get rid of. In this case, we're going to start with 107. We want to get rid of this 107, right? So I'm going to turn that on, but instead of adding a field and field and blocking this out with our MLCs, we're going to right-click on Fluence, edit Fluence. I'm going to drag this to the left again. And now I'm going to decrease our Fluence transmission factor a little bit over top of all this 107. Same concept though, right? So when those MLCs are sliding over, basically I want them to cover these hot areas for a little bit longer than they currently are, right? I'm going to cover them up, leave all these open spots the same, but it has the same effect as our field and field plans, right? We're just trying to even out the dose distribution. So to do that, I'm going to use this button right here. So decrease transmission factors by defined value. So I'm going to click that button, this transmission factor, I'm going to put 0.02 in. So now everywhere I paint with my paintbrush, whatever the transmission factor is, so these transmission factors on this plan are different everywhere. So if I use my measuring tool right here, click up here, the transmission factor is 0.842. But way out here, it's only 0.681. So I don't want to paint a specific value anywhere. I just, whatever the transmission factor is at that point, I want to subtract 0.02 from it. So I just want to cool whatever it is off a tiny bit. And you do that with this tool right here. Whoops. Okay, so the important thing to do to know about this tool though is once you click, so right now I just left mouse clicked, I'm erasing 0.02. If I unclick and then click again, it'll erase another 0.02 if I go over the same spot. So if I go over the same spot up here again, it would be 0.04 at that point. Every time you let go of your mouse and re-click, it'll take another 0.02 off. So I try not to unclick at all because I don't want to accidentally paint over the same spot twice. So I'm literally just going to try to paint all this down by 0.02 without unclicking, just so I don't accidentally take too much off of any given spot. When I feel like I've got it all, I let go, and then I can go to my next spot. Click apply and recalculate. Okay, and you can see our 107 got smaller, just like if we would have added a field and field. And then I go to my other side. Same thing, I'm going to paint out all this 107. So unlike my field and field, I don't care about blocking out my tumor bed right now. Essentially, I'm going to get rid of all the 107. And a good thing about ECOMP plan is it's very easy to add Fluence back in. So I don't care that this tumor bed's getting cold right now, because essentially then we'll just add just enough Fluence to the cold spots of the GTV to get it back to 100. So the goal right now is to just go back and forth and get rid of this 107. And same thing, 0.02 is kind of similar to my 3% for field and fields. It's hard to screw up if you just start with 0.02, but the more comfortable you get with this technique, you can start adjusting that 0.02. Some people really love this technique and swear by it and wouldn't do a breast with field and fields ever. Some people are the opposite. They really think field and fields are easier. I tend to stick with field and fields unless it's a difficult plan, and I feel like ECOMP will make a better plan only because of the QA issue. I just don't want to give our physics residents, we do a lot of breast plans, so if we did them all ECOMP, it would add a lot of work for them. So in my opinion, if there's no need for an ECOMP plan or no benefit, just to spare the QA, I'll stick with field and fields. But if it will give me any bit of a boost in plan quality, then I of course don't hesitate to go with an ECOMP plan. Getting closer here. So it's really hot here still over 110. So I unclicked and I am painting over this again to essentially remove 0.04 from my transmission factor. But I did that because it's a small area. It's still pretty hot. I think it'll be okay. Same thing on this side. I'm going to just click over these spots twice since they're small areas but still pretty hot. Hopefully just speed this up a bit. All right, so 107 is practically gone, right? That's good. If we come look at our plan, our 100 line is nice and smooth. It doesn't break up. It covers basically the whole treatment area, so that looks great. If we come here and look at coverage, we go to 95%. We're at 96%, so we're okay on coverage. Really, the only problem right now is we need to get rid of some 105, and then we'll have to get our tumor bed dose back up. So first, we can just paint out some of this 105, try to take care of that problem. So up here, I'll use a brush size of 0.2 just because we have a bigger area of 105 here. Might change it back to 1 then. I don't want to, on accident, paint over any of this area twice, so I'm just going to stay clear of up there. Going to paint out some of this and paint out some of this. I didn't cover any of my GTV, and I'm not going to get rid of any of this deep stuff because I know my GTV is cold. I'm going to add dose to that area, right? So we got rid of a lot of that 105. Over on this side, same thing. We can paint out some of this 105. And I do want to get rid of most of this, so I am gonna try to. I'm just gonna not cover any of my GTV. So I'm going all around my GTV. Try to get rid of all that. Okay, so our hotspot's less 106 or 107. We got rid of most of that 105, so I'm sure we're okay there. However, if I had to guess, so our 100 looks pretty good still. It's not breaking up weird, but if I had to guess, I bet we lost a little bit of our coverage. So let's go back to 95. Oh, we're still okay. 95, basically 96 still, so that's good. So now really our only problem is this right here. Can we get this GTV above 100? So the easiest way to do this, I think, you can just zoom in here and you can see as we scroll on our axial slice, we can see what slice we're on in our 3D view, right? So anywhere that's cold, you can just stop and paint that specific area. In this case, it's kind of easy because the whole thing is cold. So this whole edge is cold. Another thing you can do is contour out that cold area and then turn on that cold contour. And you can see it over here and then paint that specific area up. But in this case, basically the whole deep side of this GTV needs heated up. So what we're going to do, start on this side, edit fluence. Instead of using this tool, the decrease transmission factor tool, we're going to use this one, the increase transmission factor tool. And instead of 0.2, I'm going to use as little as 0.01. So I'm going to only add 0.01 at a time because I know we're right on the edge, right? Hopefully you watched the field and field video. I just know I'm right on the edge of having a max dose of 107 and a min dose of 100 on this GTV. So I want to add literally the exact minimum amount of fluence to this plan to get a min dose of 100% on this GTV. No more, no less. I make my brush smaller, so 0.5. I'm going to paint only this deep edge of that GTV, just like that. Click apply and calculate. Go to the other side here, same thing. Paint that deep edge of the GTV. and our max dose did not go up. That's good. But if you were paying close attention, the 107 cloud or the 105 cloud did go up. So we are slowly increasing our coverage. This bottom slice is okay, so I'm gonna try to not go all the way down here, okay? I'm gonna just do the top portion, kind of stop right above that bottom slice there. And since we're still pretty cold, I'm gonna actually do both sides at the same time this time. Like that. So I just added that 0.01 to both sides. Again, just to speed this up a little bit. Watch this cloud right here. See, it got a little bigger. But again, we're adding very little at a time. So now this second slice up is pretty much covered. We're getting there. So now we can ignore, the top, the very bottom. I'll go ahead and add to both sides again. .6, we're getting closer. Max dose did go up. Teeny tiny bit. Stayed put at 98.6. Our max dose is up to 107.2. So what we could do is we could keep painting this in. Our hotspot might keep going up slightly, right? And this will slowly get covered. But again, by doing it this slowly into this small of area, we know the rest of the plan. The rest of this is all very good. This is good as it can be, right? And we have as little of a hotspot as necessary to get this GTV covered, okay? So you can really fine tune these plans. But remember, we only have 6x on right now. So another option is we can do a mixed energy plan. So I can copy this field too, change this to 15x. I don't need this to be an irregular surface compensator field. Okay, so I'm going to delete this fluence. And to do that, you just hit the delete key. I'm going to add an MLC, and again, just like before, I'm going to recreate my field by tracing this 50% isodose line cloud. So now we'll have a static 15x field. It will have taken weight away from both these fields equally, so I just need to zero that out. Change my total weight to 1. Okay, so now our plan is exactly how it was before, but we have this extra field with 0 weight on it. I just need to calculate that field. Now let's see if we can add just enough weight to get this this GTV covered. So lock that medial one. Let's see what happens if we add 10% to that. You can see we do have better deep coverage. Our dose symmetry is off a little bit, just like in the field and field plan. So I'm going to lock the 15x, add a little bit more weight laterally. Oh, a little too much. Maybe about right there. Okay, so, but essentially what we did is we removed some weight from this 6x plan, right? And the 6x field contains all of our MLC movement, right? So it's like in a field and field plan, we just removed a little bit of weight from all of our lateral field and fields, essentially, right? Because we took some weight away from this field that contains all our MLC movements. So the plan got a little hotter, right? The 105 went up. So we just need to undo that, right? We need to edit the fluence of this lateral field again to get rid of some of that 105. And that's kind of a big area, so let's get rid of the majority first. Again, for now, I'm gonna avoid that GTV. If we want to be picky, we can probably get rid of quite a bit more of these little 105 spots. Okay, something like that probably is good enough. 100 line still looks good. Let's double check our PTV coverage since we added that 15 in. So 95%, we're still above 95%, so that's good. Our GTV is closer, just not quite there. So let's see. Just this area right here. So it looks like from here to here, just this small area, which unfortunately happens to be right where that hot spot is. Oops, need to increase. Let's do 0.015 again, just to speed this up a little bit. Paint that cold area right there. Still 99.3. We gotta be getting close though. Since we had enough PTV coverage, let's add some more 15s. 99.7. So close. 99.9. This hot spot laterally here. Let's try to get rid of that. .8 100. Okay, so now we can try to paint out this, all this, but we're not going to come anywhere near that GTV. So we'll decrease by our 0.02 like we were in the beginning. A lot of 105, so I'm going to use a big brush. Paint all this out. All right, got rid of most of that. That looks pretty good. If we want to really push our luck, we can try to paint that out, or at least a little bit of it. Ah, 99.9. Let's add it back in, at least on the edge here. .8. It went down. Should have just left it alone. Here's where you can find the exact slice that it's cold on. Probably right here, which is nowhere near where we painted earlier, but oh well. .1. Max dose 107.7. So, you know, again, this is just a look at planning, you know, a slightly more difficult breast plan, and it's just difficult because this GTV is deep and we're trying to cover it. we really weren't able to do a whole lot better than our field and field plan. Hopefully you watched the field and field video, but for your class assignment, your constraints won't be nearly as difficult. I suggest trying to replicate this plan though, so get your max dose as low as you can, as close to 107 as you can, and definitely keep your GTV above 100. But if you have any questions, let me know.